Welcome to Exploring This Life, Comstock Collection, the Union Mine.
Do this one is because a guy bought this property a while back.
Right, and I'm concerned that he's going to not allow access.
Well, yeah,
or
that
change
and
it.
or change it drastically.
Yeah. See, now, yeah, I went down, drove down to the bottom, so I have not been up to this top part. So very cool. I'm here with Joe again, and we are going to start a new thing for our channel, and it's going to be called the Comstock Collection. So it's going to be a new series, and first off, I want you to explain what the Comstock is.
Oh, it's a secret. I can't tell you.
You can't tell.
The Comstock was a man's name initially. And I've actually met with members of his family and so forth, but this starts back 1859, 1860, where Henry Tompkins Page Comstock comes to the area, and he's a ne'er-do-well and an interloper and an alcoholic and a horse trader and maybe a horse thief, who knows. His relatives think that, or mention that he's pretty much a black sheep of the family. Depending upon what part of the family you get, other family members say, oh, he's a wonderful guy. But what happened was he came upon three or four other fellas, Penrod, McLaughlin, a couple other guys that had actually made the initial claim, the initial findings and so forth. And he said, hey, you guys are on my land. I've claimed all of this. And they said, whoa, really? He said, but you know what? If you'll file my name and put me down for 60%, I won't make a stink about it and so forth. And so he convinced them, essentially, If they'd had used cars then, he'd have probably sold those, too.
Yes.
And so he convinced them, and they filed it. And at that time, the claim book and so forth, there was no courthouse formed, and it was actually done in a book that was kept behind the bar of one of the local saloons. And
real legal back then.
Right, exactly, right. You remember there was nothing here, 59,
right.
60, there was not much. There was about 300 people in the area.
In 1859.
1859, right. And no, I wasn't there. So as a result of that, this body of ore became known as Comstock's lode. Mm-hmm. And over time, the S was taken off, and it became known as the Comstock lode, or the Comstock region, or the Comstock Mining District, right. And that sort of thing. This is actually the Virginia range of mountains in Nevada. And then as you go east, then you get the Flowery Range, and you get the, there's another one. Starts with a B. Can't think of it for the moment. But the Comstock lode is essentially about where we are here, this north end of town, Virginia City. It's roughly about 600 feet in width and goes about 3.5 miles down in through Silver City.
I did not know that it was only 600 feet in width.
In width, it's about 600
right.
feet. And that's why you've got the Brunswick lode, mm-hmm. the Flowery lode. That was it, Brunswick.
Okay, you got it.
The Brunswick lode, the Flowery lode, and in parallel
Right.
as you go down through the 6 Mile Canyon area. Those are separate bodies of ore, and it's all volcanic. That's why it's the volcano that volcanic action that took place here. So it became known as the Comstock Lode, and it's that size. So where we actually are would be on the east edge of that width, that 600-foot width of that lode. And what they would do is they really, for the most part, they mined on the east edge of the lode, went down, and then came back into the mountain.
Okay.
And came back in underneath the street and so forth. And what they did essentially is they followed the vein. They'd hit a vein, and then you follow where that vein takes you underground, right?
That is cool.
Like any other mine.
Right.
Yeah. And where we are...
And this just happened to be a narrow and long going through the valley.
Right. And going down through the Gold Canyon, as it became known, and right on down through to Silver City.
And that's considered the Comstock Lode, but I know that the Comstock District, it extends all the way down into part of Dayton, like the historic part of Dayton, like the Rock Point Mill.
The historic district, correct, right. It extends all the way into the old town of Dayton, absolutely.
And then does it kind of stop at Sutro?
It stops before there, actually.
Okay.
The historic district doesn't include Sutro.
But so the Sutro is not included in the Comstock District?
The Comstock Historic District, right. And the historic district is one of the largest in the nation. It is not the largest. A lot of people believe that it's the largest, but it's not. It's one of. There's others that are about the same size or a little bit larger in the nation, yeah.
But in Nevada,
Oh, absolutely, in Nevada, the largest historic district.
All right, so what are we standing next to?
We're out here just north of the cemetery, Silver Terrace Cemetery, which is incidentally comprises of 11 different cemeteries. But we're at the Union Mine, the location of the Union Mine. And what's behind us are foundational materials for the lifting and the hoisting equipment. This was, at its peak, was a what's called a 3-compartment mine, which means there were 3 locations, or the shaft itself was large enough that you could have 3 cages going up and down. Cages for personnel or for mine cars that would be filled with ore that were being brought to the surface. And interestingly, it's they are the little cars that are filled with ore are called a car, C-A-R, not a cart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a lot of people.
So it's a mining car.
It's a ore car.
Or an ore car.
Yeah, ore car. So as we look off over to the east, then we see a little bit of the foundation material for where the Cornish Pump was placed.
Okay.
But this depression here that is well filled in is part of the shaft area. And like I say, this would have been a tall, and you'll see it in your photographs there.
Here.
There is a tall, this derrick, or that's the hoisting works that would have been on this.
Do you want to hold the mic?
Yeah, I got it.
And I'll grab the photos.
That was that's where that hoisting setup would have been setting, right in here.
Okay.
The foundational material. And it's interesting because you see how the foundational material is real obvious, and over time and for whatever reasons and so forth, a lot of the dirt that was surrounding it has been probably bulldozed away to use to fill in the shaft area.
Okay.
And so your next question is, how did they fill the shafts in, right?
Right.
You were wondering that, right?
I was wondering that, actually.
Right, but you didn't know that until I told you were wondering it, right?
Didn't.
So,
Had no clue.
Okay. In the teens and 20s, as they started to fill in a lot of these shafts, these shafts were essentially about 10 feet by 10 feet in square.
Okay.
So if you had a 3-compartment shaft, you had a 10-foot by 30-foot section shafts,
Right.
of the shafts, so there'd be 3 10x10s.
And in between those, would it be the square set timbering going down as well?
The square
or is
set
it-
timbering was down underground as these cavities were dug out.
Okay.
And then they were used to hold back the ground from forcing in on itself.
What would brace the sides of the shafts then?
Initially, it would be brick.
Okay.
A lot of the way down it would be brick, but when you got into 3,000 feet, they didn't put brick. It was just the material itself. And there would be timbers in certain
Okay.
sections of it that would hold back that stuff and make sure that it was solid. But they would, when they started filling them in, they would do things like old car bodies. They just run old car bodies into them because, like, again, it's only 10x10.
Right.
And that would wedge themselves in there, right? So
essentially,
then
they're dumping grounds.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like a big landfill
and
now.
they'd fill in dirt. I mean, till recent times, even probably still going on. People will dump garbage and all sorts of stuff down in these shafts, the ones that are still open in different areas. Everything from animal carcasses
Right.
to I don't know, maybe Jimmy Hoffa even. Who knows?
Big secrets down in there.
You know, actually, I think they found Jimmy back east someplace, but that was always kind of a thing of area when they were looking for him around here.
Right.
We'd always say, "Oh, he's in one of these mines for sure." So they would then they would fill in dirt behind them,
Okay.
and so that's why you've got dirt filling these areas and trees growing in them actually now. So
Right.
yeah, and they don't. But when you get around the other side, I can show you some cave-in stuff that
Okay.
goes down into some underground compartments.
Okay. All right, I'm going to use a couple hands to hold this picture up. Oh my goodness.
So
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me get out the photo.
that's where the compartments would have been located. The shaft was located over there.
To the right was the shaft?
No, that was basically in front of us.
Okay. Okay, so hold on. Let me get out the photo.
So what pumped is it was powered by steam, and it was pumped. It pumped water out of the mines.
So here,
That's interesting. Look at how the trees have.
come out of the side there.
So
Let me hand you the mic.
okay, what you're looking at there on the photograph is the Cornish Pump operation. So at that point in time, it's inside of a structure. So where we're standing right now would be inside of a structure, and we're probably on this side of the pump, where we're standing at the end of it here,
Okay.
back here.
So we're kind of backwards, like if we were standing
yeah, we're at the back end of it.
opposite.
Right. So in 1905, the federal government required the buildings to be removed over the top of mine shafts because it was a fire hazard of them going into the mines if the building caught on fire, and they did very often.
Okay.
And it could extend into the mines, and that's tax dollars that they wouldn't be getting.
Right.
So they would watch that very closely. So as you're looking down into here, this is these right here. You see these two foundational items here.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're sitting here and what Corey's sitting on,
Okay.
right? So those foundational items, and you can see in here in the picture these bolts essentially, and that's what these are. These bolts.
Oh, wow.
That they are right there, and look at the size of that bolt, and look at this, and over there you can see the size. Look at the size of the nut that's
Yeah.
on that bolt. So in this was the largest Cornish pump wheel in the U.S. At the time that they installed it in here. So you're looking down probably 25 feet, 25 maybe 30 feet. So that pump had to be 60 feet tall.
That's amazing.
So if I've got another picture that shows a man standing here, and I don't know if it's in that group or not.
I think it is. Let me
And you can see.
look through and get it out.
You can see the proportional factors.
Okay, hold on. I printed all the ones out that you
I may not have.
sent me. Here it is.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So let me get this started again.
So just
Oops, hold on.
just the hub of this Cornish pump is taller than this man is, and I would call him average. So he's probably
Right.
5'8", 5'10", maybe something on that nature. So this has got to be a 6 to 7 foot tall hub alone.
Right.
So then there's that much space up above him that is the rest of the wheel. The other half is down in this pit here.
Right.
So then most of the mines had these pumps to pump this water out. The Savage was another one that had a large pump wheel like that, and that's over right in the center of town on F Street.
Okay.
But there's nothing left of it there. And this particular one, you could envision it. So you can see the pumping operation. You see the shafts. So it goes around on this wheel. So this thing is going like this and pumping that water. Not any different than any kind of a pump that functions today.
Right.
But you have to think that they're pumping out of all of these mines. They're pumping millions of gallons of water every day.
Every day.
Yeah, and these mines are being inundated by the water, and that was one of the big problems with the mining industry at the time. So
Would these blocks then have come from the quarry that you told me about? The same quarry, or is this a?
yeah, particularly the gray ones.
Right. I was wondering
And
what
the others,
red ones.
the red ones are more of a, looks to me like a granite material, and they have a kind of a coloration that makes me think that they might have come out of a quarry that's south of Carson,
Okay.
by the coloration of them. So there would have been an axle that you see here. You see there's this guy. There would have been an axle that would have run across here, and these bolts not only hold the axle and so forth down, but it's also used to level that axle so that the pump wheel pumps true.
Right.
Turns true. Over by the Savage, when we were putting in the newest sewer system, they opened up a hole that went down into a brick-lined passageway, which Mr. Brilliant here decided it would be a good idea to go down into.
I would have done it. I would have gone with you.
Yeah, it was actually pretty neat. You had to crawl through it because it had filled up with dirt and mud and stuff. But in that one, which was way underground, that Cornish pump wheel was set much lower into the ground, and it was in this passageway that you could see there were holes in the wall that you would put a big wrench into, and you would adjust the nuts on the other ends, on the bottom end of these.
That's amazing.
In order to true up the axle
Right.
of the pump.
What do you think is that wire down there? All that.
That wire that would have been from the hoisting works,
Okay.
which would have been over here, back over to our right where we were.
Okay.
Thinking that would be hoisting wire. There was two kinds of hoisting wire that was used. There was the round kind, like that, cabling, and that cabling is probably 1.5 inches. I would say, I'm looking at it from here, it might even be a little bit more than that. And they also used flat cabling, which was invented here.
Was it?
Yeah, and it's about 5 or 6 inches in width.
I've
and it was
seen it.
You've seen flat cabling.
What is it? Is it just called flat cabling? I thought it was had another name too.
Flat wire, flat cable.
Okay.
But there's a whole spool of it up at the north of the gas station at the rest stop.
Okay.
That was actually in a yard across the street from my house, and when they started doing that. That little rest stop area there, I said, I know where there's a whole spool of that. So they went down there with a front loader, No way they could lift it up. The front loader just brought the wheels back up on it, you know. So then they got a excavator. No way.
Nothing.
No way. So they had to hire a crane. They brought a crane up to lift this spool of flat
That
wire.
is so cool.
Yeah, flat cabling up there, and they moved it up, and so it's on display now, and it's a good display item.
I'll have to look at that.
Quite fascinating. So you see, where you see is where the thing is filled to now. It would have been not much different than it is now, but of course the shaft is filled in.
Right.
You know, Zephyr's coming up.
I know.
The afternoon Zephyr. Here, let's see. I'll bet you. I can't see it, but this was probably a passageway area where you could get down, and there's probably at some point there was probably some access factors to get into the lower half of the bolts and nuts that held the axle down for the Cornish Pump. This particular mine was one of many owned by Mackey, Fair, Flood, and O'Brien.
Okay.
So those guys owned a number of mines as a union mining and milling company. And there was always this rumor that they had underground meeting rooms because they didn't want to have people try to listen in to their board meetings about what they're talking about.
Right.
They also used codes and ciphers in the process of their communications by telegraph. And I have.
Isn't that what you're deciphering now?
That's what I've been working through. Yeah, right. I have some of the code books that we found in the clerk's office at the courthouse one day, and So one day I got a call because one of my responsibilities is dealing with not caved in, but sunken holes in the ground,
right.
You know, shafts that have opened up and so forth. So I deal with the Nevada Bureau of Mines. So this one opened up a couple years back, and it's gotten worse and worse. And I've not tried to go down into there and so forth. I probably would like to.
I probably would like to too.
but there was obviously some sort of a passage area and a room that was back over here, kind of back underneath that area, because you can see into there and you can see it goes back to our left underneath there. So Nevada Bureau of Mines came up and chained this, barbed wired this all off for us.
Right.
And that's what their interns do. They send them up here and
well, it seems like a fun job.
Yeah, and
do they go in the mines first?
No, not usually, as a rule. No, we did a mine safety video last week that I was working with them.
You said you had to wear all this equipment?
Oh yeah, it was hot and it was raining and that stuff weighs like 60 pounds. And that's a lot of work for an old guy.
Yeah.
You know. You see that compares. So you can see we're standing right about in that pretty much same location. And you see that overhead cabling?
Right. Was that the tramway?
That was for the cable TV.
They did have electric, so
they did have tramway operations here as well.
Now, would this track then just be for these two?
The ore would come up out of the shaft on a car or a car. It would wheel out. Come down the tracks, and it would dump at the end of the track. So this track is probably this is post using the wheels. The wheel doesn't show at this in these pictures.
Okay.
So they would have come around here, and that thing would have gone on around over there, and ore coming out down this track would have been back behind us, being dumped in these various locations.
Right. So then, is this considered to be 7 Mile? Because we're on the side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is the upper, or the east, or correction, the west side of 7 Mile. but we're not down in the canyon itself.
Okay.
Now, if you look straight across over there, and you see that that gray area there,
Right.
that is the Scorpion mine.
Okay.
There's another cemetery up on that above that gray tailing pile there, or overburden is actually what it is, taken out of the ground. There's another cemetery back over there.
And was that
It was a generalized cemetery. It was miners, pretty much.
Okay.
There's not much left of anything over there. It's just a matter of knowing that it's there.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I think Ron drove me over there one time.
Oh, could be.
Maybe.
Yeah. So if we can walk over there a ways, we'll be able to look down into the canyon. And then the Mexican would have been situated in this area. Down in the area there, that ground all in the bottom there is all very sandy because that's part of the sand operation. In the milling operation, you generate sand from the crushing processes and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, as I look around over there, I haven't been out on this spit here for quite a while, but you're looking straight across over there, there's a Sierra Nevada directly across from here. You can see two kinds of trails coming off of that pile, that overburden pile. You see one that is water drainage, erosion,
right.
And then you see another one where motorcycles have come off of that spit and come down the side and all the way down and then into the canyon.
I would not do that.
Well, the problem with that is that it's actually, I have problems with that because that's disrespectful to the history of that location,
right.
And it's leaving marks all over the area, and the bikes, they'll try to go up it and then they tear the place up, and it's, and I'm nothing against bikes. I used to race bikes, but I think it's just disrespectful to the historic district and the community,
right.
To ride them in that situation. Now, I don't think, as I look across over there, we can't, on the other side of the Sierra Nevada, but down behind it is the Jewish Hebrew cemetery, which is cared for by the synagogue and the people in Reno, the members of that synagogue. They come out and care for that on a regular basis. All our local motorcyclists go down here. My kids rode their motorcycles down in the area here. They used to call it the beach because it was all the sand and so forth. Yeah, all the sand and so forth. And we get calls out here from time to time. We had one that somebody tried to ride down the hill here one time and wrecked, and medical calls and so forth that we have to respond and rescue these people out of the canyon area.
So when was the Union mine running, and then when was the Mexican mill running?
Well, the Union was actually founded in 1859-ish, 1860, along in there when it was founded. It ran well up into the close to the 30s and so forth. It produced about $24 million of gold and silver out of there. That was a lot of money at that time, $24 million. In today's dollars, you have to multiply that by about 24.
Okay.
So if you multiplied $24 million by 24, who's the math whiz here? Okay. Corey's opting out also, I think.
Oh, he's going to Google.
Oh, Corey's going to GTS it. 24 times 24 million. And we'll see what kind of a value factor if you were taking that much ore out today. They also did what was it? 57 million. No, probably
24 times 24.
24 times 24 million.
Yeah, 24
oh, okay.
24 million. That's what I did.
It would be 57. I'll bet you it's 5.7 billion. I'll bet you it's 5.7 billion actually. So I forgot where I was going with that. They had disbursements of or distributions from the mining operation of over 2 million that they when you got, you know, when you have stock in the mine,
Right.
then they would do distributions back to you, you know, your what you're making on the stock and so forth. And most of the mines around Virginia City did not give away much money.
Right.
They took in assessments on a regular basis. They were always assessing people. You know, they wanted more money to do more work, but very, very rarely did most of them give any kind of distribution back to their members.
Did the union and the Mexican work together?
Yeah. The Mexican was milled a lot of, not only here but for other areas as well.
Okay.
It was built primarily to process ore from the Mexican mine,
Okay.
and the Mexican mine was located in another area of
Right.
town. Yeah, but they would put themselves wherever they could that was appropriate, and then they would bring the ore to them.
Okay.
Consequently, as we looked at that picture and you could see the cabling over here,
Yeah.
there was some tramway operations that took place in this area as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it wouldn't have been the same tram that went
No.
to Butters. That
Totally-
would have been a different one.
totally separate operation. Yeah.
Because I know the remnants of the Mexican mill are down below us, right?
Yeah, you'll find remnants of it there. There's various pieces of metal and so forth that you'll find around, but you know, during World War I and World War II, all this stuff was dismantled and for war effort purposes. You know, and they would haul it off. And that in around 1890, a lot of the stuff was transferred out to other mining districts.
Okay.
Was picked up and hauled off. You know,
So all that's pretty much left is the
yeah.
foundations.
So you don't. Yeah, that's what you see pretty much. You don't get to see a lot of it, and it's unfortunate, but it goes
Yeah.
away. You know, for various reasons.
Now, what is that up there right across from us on the hill? Do you see that? It looks like
It looked like
square structure of some kind.
I can't really tell if it's back behind those trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's either junk
Okay.
or it's probably something that has to do with maybe the Mexican operation.
Okay.
So we come back over here to the pit, and you see how long this thing is. So
Yeah.
remember I said it was a 3-compartment.
Uh-huh.
So you would have had another, probably some degree of hoisting stuff here, but this whole area would have been part of that shaft. And some of these shafts go down 2,000-3,000 feet. You know, that's deep.
Yeah.
This, where we were looking down over into here earlier, into this hole, there's actually an opening, or there was, it's not open, but this was actually an opening right in here
Okay.
to go into there. So there was like a tunnel that went from here, there, and it came out at the other end, and then it went back in there. So it might have had several uses. It might have had something to do with getting to underground workings that related to the Cornish Pump, or who knows. But like I say, there was always these rumors that these guys would have underground things so that
Secret
people couldn't,
meetings, right.
yeah, secret meetings and so forth. It was a secret society in terms of business practices.
Oh, I'm sure.
on
They
the-
didn't want to share their trade secrets.
Oh, absolutely. You know, because what they would do is they would, if you owned this mine, and I owned another one over across town or something, I didn't want you to know when I hit a good bunch of ore. So I would keep the miners down into the mine, and I would bring them food and whatever, and keep them down there until I could go and buy more of my own stock.
Right.
And then
Keep them busy.
Yeah. And then you bring it up, and then it becomes public, and you're making a lot of money.
Right.
The reverse would be true also. When they didn't find anything, they would take and sell their stock beforehand while it was still up.
Right.
And then because once these guys came up and went home, went to the bars, did whatever, the word was out.
Right.
So then you'd sell your stock while it was still up, and then they'd come up and talk in the bars, and the stock would go down. You know, so and then you'd go back in and you'd buy more if you knew that you were going to hit another
another day.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think
It
they
was
call
very
that
shrewd.
today. I think they call that insider
That's what I
trading.
was going to say. It's definitely insider trading. Frowned
Yeah.
upon now.
I always like to bring up in some of the talks, I'll mention that, you know, those of you that remember the Enron incident with the insider trading, if you think that that was a big deal, you should have been on the Comstock in the 1800s. That was nothing
Right.
compared to what went on here. Yeah.
Very cutthroat.
Yeah, very much, very so. Yep, yep. So that's pretty much the union and its operations.
So I'm down in the wheel pump groove, or whatever you want to call it. The trees are growing out of the side of the wall up there. You can see the big, like, eye hooks. Those are metal. They're all through here. Just some of them are exposed. I can't imagine how ginormous this wheel was. That's just amazing. I can't imagine how heavy that is. Must be seriously a lot of weight. See all of the big bolts. Okay. Well, this is a really cool place. So I hope that the new owner does not do anything with these structures, and because this is just cool. This tree is growing sideways out of that.
there's a lot of
I know. It does sound like a bunch of bees. It's really windy though. Alright guys, we hope you liked the beginning to our new series. As always, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and if you liked the video, to give us a thumbs up. And also, any questions or comments, you can leave them down below, and you can always follow along with us on our social media. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.